So what we were doing, we were studying our single phase induction motor, and in single phase induction motor we had started understanding how to start our single phase induction motor, means how that starting torque could have been produced. We could have given a single phase supply and externally use some force or torque to rotate the motor. That is not a problem, but I told you that every time it is not possible that it is the fan at your home, you switch on the supply and then you use a pen or anything to rotate the blades, then an external torque will be produced and it will move. So it is not possible every time to give the supply and do this procedure again and again. So what happens to the fan? You switch on the supply, it starts rotating. So automatically we are creating our two phase motor over there. So instead of using a single phase, we are splitting the phase into two by using the two windings, the main and the auxiliary winding. And that's why the starting torque was getting developed, because of the rotating magnetic field, and my rotor was rotating. So we'll continue with the same methods over here. Today our discussion will be the methods only. What are the other methods which are present in order to start the induction motor? Some are very important, you need to understand it very nicely. So we were studying split phase starting, right? Split phase starting, if you remember this term, we are using the term, first method was split phase starting. So we'll continue our discussion with that split phase starting only. We had done resistor split phase starting and capacitor split phase starting. In resistor split phase starting, we had seen how the windings, auxiliary and main windings were designed to obtain two fluxes which were having an angle beta between them. So because of that, there was a resultant over there. And we also had seen that our uh, that torque at starting, in order to make it maximum, that was not possible in case of your resistor split phase motor. We were using a capacitor to make that beta close to 90 or your alpha close to 90 degrees. So that was why we are using a capacitor. Now we'll go to another use of capacitor in another type of starting method, which is capacitor start and run motor. So according to the name only, you can understand that the capacitor over here is used during starting as well as during running. So previously what we are seeing, that the capacitor was used only during starting, and then it could have produced the starting torque, and the motor would have start rotating and normal operation is performed. But over here, a small change over here is that we will use a capacitor for starting also, and the capacitor will remain in the circuit in running time also. Okay. So basically what we are doing, we are creating a two-phase motor over here, because the capacitor remains in the starting, the auxiliary winding will be there. So if auxiliary and main winding is there in the circuit, so it is a two-phase motor only, right? We are not getting previously what we are doing, we are removing the auxiliary winding. So after normal operation is obtained, it was behaving as a single phase motor only. But over here it is a two phase motor, always rotating magnetic field will be produced, and there is no fear of getting the torque lost at starting. Okay, so no problem about that. So let's start with our discussion over here. So again the same thing over here. What is the rotor? The rotor should be squirrel cage. We have talked about why squirrel cage is preferred over wound rotor induction motor. Please go through those. Last class also we had discussed about that. And over here two windings are used again. What are that? Auxiliary winding. This your A denotes your auxiliary. For that the flux produced is phi A, auxiliary flux. This is your main winding. This is your flux produced by the current flowing through the main winding is phi A. The two windings should be placed at 90 degrees to each other, because it is a condition of creating two phase. Okay, so the two windings are placed 90 degrees in space. If it is three winding, it should be placed 120 degrees in space. Now over here in the auxiliary winding, we are using two capacitors. if you remove this C1, if you remove this C2, and you will see C1 CS, this was our previous circuit, which was capacitor split phase motor, except the C2. The other part of the circuit was a capacitor split phase motor. But now we are using two capacitors, C1 and C2. Why we are using, we'll come to it later. Okay. Now, since we are using two capacitors over here, it is also called as two value capacitor motors. Since two capacitors are used, so two value capacitor motor it is also called. Now, this auxiliary winding is always used during starting. So can I say this C1 is my starting capacitor? This is only used during starting. If the centrifugal switch is open when normal operation is performed, means it is 70 to 80% of your synchronous speed, then C1 is off. So basically why we need your C1 is a starting capacitor. So it acts as a starting component. So we are naming C1 as a starting capacitor. And what is our main aim? We want the highest possible torque during starting. Okay, that's why we are introducing capacitor, to make that angle beta towards 90 degree, because torque was proportional to Ia Im sin beta. If beta is 90, torque would have been maximum. So at starting, what will happen? In order to get maximum starting torque, a large current should pass. So if a large current should pass through this path, the impedance should be less. So capacitive reactance over here will be less. So capacitive reactance over here is less. If your Xc is less, so Xc is inversely proportional to C. You know, Xc is equal to 1 by omega C. So capacitor value will be more. So this capacitor C1 value will be more. And since it is used during starting, it is a short time rated capacitor. So it should be chosen accordingly, such that it will handle a very large current and voltage, and it will be used for a short time only, that is during starting. Now during normal operation, under normal operation, what we do, we open the centrifugal switch. C1 doesn't come into function, only C2 comes into function. Okay, now during normal operation, what will happen? The current is the full load current only. So there is no need of the full load current is very less than the starting current. The starting current is 5 to 10 times of the full load current. So if it is 5 ampere full load current, so and starting current would have been 50 ampere. So this C1 would have to handle that 50 ampere current. So C2 has to handle a smaller current, that is smaller line current. So can I say the impedance can be more over here? So impedance offered by the circuit is more. So impedance if more, that means C2 will be less. That means C2 will be less, because your reactance Xc2 is inversely proportional to C. So if Xc2 is more in third number point, that is only what I have written. C2 value will be less. And it is always there in the circuit. There is no switch to disconnect this C2. It will always be there in the circuit. And it will handle nominal voltage and nominal current. So it should be rated for continuous duty. Now, what are the type of capacitors chosen over here? The C1 is generally chosen electrolytic type, and C2 is generally chosen paper type or oil type. Okay. Now, what we are doing over here? Now, see, if the centrifugal switch is closed at starting, okay, this C1 and C2 comes in parallel. I've written over here, yeah, 8 number point I'm discussing. Okay, number 8. Then we'll go to other this 5, 6, 7, which I have already explained over here. So if I am connecting the means switching on this centrifugal switch, C1 and C2 comes in parallel. So if two capacitors comes in parallel, what will happen to the equivalent capacitance? It will increase because it gets added up. If your capacitor gets increased, what will be the angle? Means this leading angle, this will tend to increase. If you are having a C1 value only, it will be over here Ia. Then if you go on increasing the capacitor, this angle will go on increasing. So previously in our last day circuit, what we are getting a problem, because of a single capacitor, beta would not have been reached 90 degree. It was close to 90 degree. I could have made my beta 90 degree or alpha 90 degree by choosing a very high value of capacitor, but that would have increased the cost of the machine, because we are using a single phase motor, right? We are not using a three phase machine. So you know what will be the cost. The fan in a the motor used in a fan You will not want a motor to be that cost of a 3-phase motor, right? So you should take care of the cost also. So we have to compromise something, and then we have to go for the design. So that's why over here what we are doing, because that maximum torque could not have been obtained over there, we are trying to add an external capacitors in parallel and trying to make the beta angle or the alpha angle 90 degree. So that is the use of those parallel capacitors. And since we are using two capacitors, we are telling it as two value capacitor motors. So your capacitor increase and your alpha tends to 90 degrees. So this is the phasor diagram of your capacitor start and run motor. Okay. So what is the compromise we are doing over here? We are trying to get the best starting with a high value of capacitance. C1 is there in the circuit during starting. So we are wanting a best starting with a high capacitance and best running with a low capacitance, because C1 is greater, C2 is smaller. You have seen in point number 2 and point number 3, and I have explained those points. Okay. Your switch, how your switch works, when it reaches the normal operation, that is 70 to 80% of your synchronous speed.
IA আর IM এই দুটোর ভ্যালু আলাদা হবে তো যখন ফুল লোড হয়ে যাচ্ছে?
একটা বলো। হ্যাঁ, এটা তো আলাদা হবে, অনলি লাইন মানে এই যে এই ম্যাগনিটিউডটা দেখেই বোঝা যাচ্ছে, এগুলো আলাদা হবে, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। এই অ্যাঙ্গেলটার উপর ডিপেন্ড করবে, রেজাল্টেন্টার ম্যাগনিটিউড যা হবে সেটা ডিপেন্ড করবে। আচ্ছা, এবার centrifugal switch, what is the work? It disconnects your C1. It disconnects your C1 when 70 to 80% of synchronous speed is obtained. So that is the work of your centrifugal switch. And at the first only, as I was telling, previous two motors which we had studied were single phase motors. ঠিক আছে, means we were splitting the phase at the start, but normal operation is under single phase condition also. But this case, number C and number D, which we'll study, these are two phase motors, because your auxiliary winding and your main winding remains in the circuit always, right? So we are splitting the phase. So if this auxiliary winding is there always in the circuit, there will always be phi A. The main winding is always there. There will be always phi M. So there will be a resultant. So it is a balanced two-phase motor. Okay, under running condition, it will act as a balanced two-phase motor. So always there is a rotating magnetic field. These are the speed torque characteristics. You can easily understand. See, one thing is different from the previous one. That difference only I want to point out. What is the difference? Previously you could have seen the starting torque, if main winding is present, would have been from 0. But this has started from C2. This has started from some height, right? Because over there you are disconnecting, means you are not having the auxiliary winding, and you cannot using the centrifugal switch you can disconnect the auxiliary winding at any time. Okay, so we were studying auxiliary winding means main winding separately, the speed torque characteristic, and main plus auxiliary winding separately. But in this case we can't separate our auxiliary winding. Even if this is not there, this completely forms a circuit. So always there will be a two-phase operation. So if it is a two-phase operation, always there will be rotating magnetic field. So always there will be a starting torque. So that's why this is the difference. Previously the starting torque was from 0 only when main winding was used, but over here only main winding cannot be used. Main plus auxiliary has to be used, because auxiliary winding is not disconnected through your centrifugal switch. So that's why we are having a starting torque over here. And obviously if you are increasing the capacitor, the torque will increase. So see, the torque has increased. Now what we are doing in the starting, we are using both the capacitors. So both the capacitor torque curve will follow. Then as 70 to 80% is reached, then which curve should follow? Only one capacitor and both windings. So one capacitor and both winding is this one. So this dotted line, so it will rise up to this and this will fall like this. Okay, so this is how your graph should be drawn, and you should take care of this point. Don't draw it from zero like the other things. Some calculations are given over here. You can choose how you choose your C2 and C1. This C2 should be chosen like this, and where it is used, all applications of induction motor are compressors, fans, pumps, and all. And how the power ratings are required: 100 to 400 watt. Okay, so in the first slide only we had discussed according to the power rating, duty cycle, how the motor is used. We can choose a which motor starting method should be used. So that's why all power ratings are given over here according to your rating, whether you are using a fan of small fan which can be operated in 30 to 40 kilowatt 40 watt, or a fan which needs 100 to 400 watt, then which motor should be used, then and for 100 to 400 watt which motor should be used, then accordingly you can design. Okay, so every application is a fan and compressor, pumps, everything. Induction motor will have the same application. Only difference is a power rating. What are the cost compromises which we are making? And at last, the capacitor run motors. This is the most common motor type of starting which is used, and you have observed at your home. Also, this is your fan. There's a white color capacitor always present in your fan, so that is a permanent, means capacitor run motor. It is, if you can see from this circuit only, this is also called as capacitor, permanent capacitor motor. Okay, so always your capacitor remains in the circuit. So what is the difference between these two? So if I remove, that's why in the first point what I was telling, that if I remove this one and keep this circuit alone only, it will act as a two-phase motor. And at the starting, because their phi A is in this direction, phi M is this direction, so there will be a resultant. So it will be rotating in nature, maybe in clockwise, maybe in anti-clockwise, whichever direction it is. So what we are doing is removing this C1. Okay, if I'm adding two capacitors over here in series, maybe there, if some connection problems occur, then we have to check your capacitor, this one, or if there is a problem with the switch. Okay, so eliminating those problems, we are using a single capacitor, then that is of high value, and that capacitor will always remain in the circuit. So that is what we use in the fans which we use in our home, a single capacitor circuit, and it is always present. So it is behaving, basically it is a two-phase motor. So there is no creation of two-phase at the start and then removing it. It is acting as a two-phase motor. Same thing, squirrel cage motor, two windings, phase displaced by space displaced by 90 degree. So that's why the phi A and phi M are produced at a space displacement of 90 degree. So that is my first one. Only one capacitor is connected in series with your auxiliary winding, and this remains permanently in the circuit. So it is sometimes called as a permanent capacitor. This is written over here, permanent split capacitor motor, or since one capacitor is used, it is called as a single value capacitor motor. There is no need of centrifugal switch, so if you no need any extra component, the cost of the setup will also decrease. So this motor is less costly than your previous motors. Okay. What we are doing, we are trying to create a starting torque using this capacitor. So those capacitor and auxiliary winding should be such designed that there is a 90 degree time phase displacement between your two winding terminals. So there should be close to 90 degrees, so that your torque at starting will be maximum. So this capacitor and this winding impedance is designed in such a way that the beta tends to 90 degrees. So your starting torque will be maximum. And since it is a two-phase motor, always rotating magnetic field is produced, so always there will be a starting torque, and there will be uniformity in operation. What is the advantages? No centrifugal switch, so cost will be reduced. Higher efficiency, so because there is no additional capacitors, there may be no problem with those external circuits, external capacitors which are added. So you don't have to think about any extra problems which were there in the other circuit. That means disconnection of centrifugal switch. If suppose 70 to 80% is obtained and your CS is not working, you can't disconnect your switch over there. That could have been a problem. So over here there is no problem. You just turn on, give your switch to your fan. It creates a single phase to two phase, and your fan starts operating. So you don't have to think any problem. Only thing, yes, sometimes your capacitor gets blown off. You may have things sometime during lightning, your capacitor gets blown off. That happens for any equipment. You can go for a fridge, you can go for an inverter. If high current passes through those equipment, it will get burned off. So that is a common problem. You can't do away with that problem. And there is also a high power factor. This power factor is good for all capacitor motors. Okay, and higher pull out torque means okay. So what typical application, as I have told, the ceiling fans. Okay, the ceiling fan, most of the all ceiling fans, all ceiling fans at our home. Modern technologies are different, obviously, but previously all technologies which were used are ceiling fans, which use a 2 to 3 microfarad capacitors. Okay, so what we will questions can come for your semester is explain this operation. Okay, so questions in your semester will come, explain the operation of capacitor start run moment. You have to write these points. You have to draw this figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. This 3 for any circuit, 4 circuits we have explained should be there. Okay, and rest these points you can write on your own, whatever explanation I have given you, if you understood. And if you go through once through this, you will understand whatever I have told. All the points are written over here. So you can go through these points and write on in your own words. That is up to you. But these 3 diagrams should be present. In this case, these 2 diagrams should be present. So whatever diagram I have drawn should be present in your answer sheet. Next, very important, this one is another very important thing. Again, this explanation will come. All these are theoretical things. Explanation of the operations will come. So next thing is that shaded pole motor. Another type of starting which we had discussed. We had discussed 4 methods of starting. This is a second method. First was split phase. Second now is your shaded pole motor. What is this shaded pole? Now we'll go through point wise only. Okay, then you can understand this better. Now in the shaded pole motor, the main winding is placed on the stator. So you see the stator. This is the rotor. You can understand the rotor. And obviously it should be squirrel cage type. We have discussed it, why it should be squirrel cage. Now the main winding is placed on the stator. And a small portion of the pole, this is the small portion of the pole, is short circuited with a single turn copper coil. See, a small portion of the pole is short circuited with a single turn copper coil, and this is known as your shading coil. This is your shading coil. Now if you give a sinusoidal supply, if you give a AC supply to the main winding, what will happen? It will induce a EMF in this coil, right? Why it will induce a EMF? There you are giving a AC supply, there is number of turns, one single turn, n equal to 1, so E is equal to n d phi by dt. So it will induce a EMF in this shading coil, and if there is a induced EMF and this coil is short circuited, so obviously a current will flow. If a current flows through this coil, obviously a flux will be produced. So the induced current will produce a flux in this shading coil. So a separate flux will be produced, except there will be a flux over here also, no problem. But there will be a separate flux produced in this shading coil. So in the shaded portion of the pole, there will be a flux produced. So that's why there will be a flux produced. And the remaining part of the pole produces its own flux. So in this case, we are getting 2 fluxes. One is phi m dash, and the other produced by the shaded portion of the pole, that is phi sp, which are considering this. And if I have a phase angle between these two, phi m dash and phi sp, If I have a phase angle between these two as beta, then obviously we will have a resultant. That means we are getting two phases, we are getting a resultant, we'll get a rotating magnetic field. So that is my aim over here. How we are creating that rotating magnetic field? By creating two separate fluxes. And how the two separate fluxes are produced? One is produced by the main part of the pole, and the other part of the pole, which is called as the shaded section or the shaded portion of your pole, produces its own flux because there is a winding present over there and current flows through that winding. So those two flux will interact and produce a resultant flux which will produce the rotating magnetic field. If this beta is 0, then obviously rotating magnetic field can't be produced. So we'll see how this beta comes. Whether this phi m dash or phi sp is in same phase, then obviously there will be no rotating magnetic field, no starting torque, then of no use. Or whether this has an angle beta or alpha, whatever is given. Okay, so this is the principle over here we have used. Now, one thing you should keep in mind over here, there is no use of auxiliary winding over here. So another, it's no extra winding present of so much number of turns. So it reduces the cost of the setup also. So much number of turns need so much copper. So the cost of the equipment reduces. So we have a less costly setup over here. Now, the main winding flux is phi is equal to phi m sin omega t. We are giving a AC supply. So main winding flux will be phi is equal to phi m sin omega t. Now phi m, this main winding flux is composed of two components, right? One is because of the shading coil, one is the other part of the pole, right? Flux component passing down the other part of the pole. One is because of this, one is because of this part. Okay, so what will be this phi m? This phi m is divided into two types of phi m. One with the maximum value of the shading coil, so phi m sc. Another one, this is phi m dash. So phi m dash, the maximum value of flux produced by the other part of the pole or the rest of the pole, and phi m sc is the flux component linking the shading pole. So I hope you understood that why phi m, the total flux, is divided into two, because we are getting two fluxes, and for two fluxes, two different maximum values, so we are adding those two. Now, what will be the EMF induced in the coil? What will be the EMF induced in the coil? Apply Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. E is equal to N d phi by dt. So what is N d phi sc m by t? What is N over here? 1, because it is a single turn coil, so N is 1. So we can write directly d phi m sc by dt. Now what is phi m sc? Phi m sc is nothing but phi m sc sin omega t. If you substitute phi m as this one over here, what you will get? 1 as phi m sc sin omega t plus phi m dash sin omega t. So what is phi m sc over here? It is a sine component over here. Okay, so phi m sc max, phi m sc max, you derive, do the derivative of your sin omega t. What you will get? Omega with respect to dt, obviously. So cos omega sin omega t is cos omega t. You get this value. Now, suppose the impedance of this coil, this is a single turn coil made up of some elements, so it will provide some impedance. So let that impedance be ZSC at an angle theta s. So that will be RSC plus JXC in polar form. You can write in this form, you can write in this form also, no problem. But ultimately you have to find out current, so you have to do division. So this is most favorable. So what is ISC? ISC will be the EMF in this coil by the impedance. So what is EMF in this coil? ESC. What is impedance? ZSC at an angle theta SC. So this divided by this. So can I say this cos omega t minus theta SC becomes my angle, and this is my magnitude phi SC max omega divided by what? ZS.
So এখানে EMF through মেন ফ্লাক্সটা বার করব না, মানে রিমেনিং পার্ট অফ দ্য পোলের জন্য যে ফ্লাক্সটা হচ্ছে
না, এটা দরকার নেই, ওটা দরকার নেই।
আর ওটা দিয়ে কারেন্টও বার করার দরকার নেই, শুধু শেডিং কয়েল দিয়ে বার করলেই হবে।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, মানে আমরা কি করছি, এইটা যদি পুরোটা হতো, আই এম থিংকিং ইফ দিস ইজ নর্মাল কেস, তাহলে উই হ্যাভ আ জেনারেল ইকুয়েশন, মানে আমার ফ্লাক্সের ইকুয়েশন জেনারেল যেরকম হয় আমরা জানি, রাইট, আমরা শুধু শেডিং কয়েলটার জন্য বার করছি।
আচ্ছা
এর এফেক্টটা কি পড়বে মেন ফ্লাক্স? So this is my ISC, and next what we will find out is the flux produced by ISC, because we need to find the angle, right? For that angle beta, by how much it should lead or lag. So phi SC by shading coil, okay, by that coil, the flux produced by that coil, shading coil, that is your flux is given by mmf by reluctance. So mmf is Ni, so N into ISC by reluctance. What is N? 1 into ISC by R. What is your ISC? We had already calculated this one. Okay, so we have substituted it over there. Now phasor diagram, very important. কি করে drawing করছি phasor diagram? We have considered our ESC as our reference, cos omega t as our reference. Okay, so ESC drawn as our reference. Now compared to ESC, if you see phi SC is cos omega t minus theta SC, so minus means lagging, so lagging by theta SC will be phi SC, as well as lagging by theta SC will be ISC. And since phi SC is ISC by reluctance, so phi SC will be lesser magnitude than ISC. Or what we have done is lagging our ISC and phi SC by an angle theta SC, and the magnitude of phi SC is less than ISC. I hope everybody has understood this. Why this is lagging and why the magnitude of phi SC is less than ISC. Okay, so that point is number 8. Next, we'll try to draw this phi m dash and phi m SC. Now, as compared to ESC, this is a cos omega t function, and this put over here will give you a sin omega t function. So sin omega t leads your cos omega t by 90 degree, right? So that value phi m SC and phi m dash will lead your cos omega t by 90 degree. So that's why phi m dash and phi m SC is leading your ESC by 90 degrees. So that gives me your 9 point. Now we'll find out the actual flux produced by this one. What is the actual flux produced by this one? Is the resultant of phi MSC and phi SC. So we are already plotted this one, phi SC, because of shading coil, and maximum value phi SC over phi MSC over here. The resultant over here gives you phi SP, the actual flux that is produced by that shaded pole. Sorry. So phi SP is your resultant or your actual flux, which is produced by that shaded pole. Now you go to the figure. Phi m dash we have found out. We have found out phi SP. Now what was our condition? That between phi m dash and phi SP there should be some angle. So that means there will be some resultant, and that will create a rotating magnetic field. Both phi SP and phi m dash should not be in same phase. Otherwise, no resultant magnetic field can be created. So obviously you can see there is angle alpha over here. So a resultant will be produced, and thereby rotating magnetic field gets produced, and hence there will be a starting torque. So this is how the starting torque is produced in case of your shaded pole motor, by introducing a shaded pole. A small section of the pole is there, and over there EMF, current and separate flux can be generated, and that flux forms a resultant with the total flux or the flux of the rest of the system, and produces a resultant. So that resultant is your producing your rotating magnetic field. So this is your typical torque speed characteristic of shaded pole induction motor. So there is a starting torque and it will go. So all these points are written over here. They are two sinusoidally varying flux, and they are displaced in space by an angle alpha. Okay. So there will be a net torque, and there will be a starting torque, self-starting. It will behave as a self-starting motor. Now how the direction of rotation can be done? If you see, the net flux in the shaded portion of the pole lags your flux phi m dash, the unshaded portion. Okay, so there is a, this one is in this direction. This phi sp lags your yes, phi sp lags your phi m dash by an angle alpha, right? So this flux, where is your this flux? Yes, from here, if you understand. So this flux lags your phi m dash by an angle alpha from your main flux alpha. So this flux by an angle alpha. So so this flux will become maximum first. It will reach maximum first, and after alpha angle, it will reach maximum. This phi sp will reach angle maximum. So our rotation is from your shaded pole, from your unshaded pole to your shaded pole in this direction. Okay, so because this reaches maximum first, and then it will reach this phi sp maximum after your angle alpha. So this rotor tries to rotate in this direction. So these are the points which are stated over here, and how this is created I have explained to you. Shaded pole starting. So this is a very important shaded pole starting. It can come for your exam. Okay. And I have told you as previously, no auxiliary winding is required, but also it is a self-starting one, so it makes it less costly, and we don't have to take care of your auxiliary winding. If there is damage in the auxiliary winding, we don't have to take care of it because there is no auxiliary winding over here, so it is more robust in construction. This motor has less efficiency, and also this motor has low, means it operates in very less power range. So 1 by 20 kilowatt, that is 50 watt, and 1 by 300 kilowatt is almost around 3 to 5 watt. So 5 to 50 watt its range is. And the application again same, domestic fan, tape recorders, everything. Next what we'll go to the repulsion motor. This motor I am leaving it up to you. We'll just go to discussion. So this is not very important. Just we'll understand what is happening over here. See over here also we are using the same thing. The rotor carries over here. This is my rotor, and with this rotor carries your, these are brushes. Okay, this rotor carries your armature winding, and these brushes are short circuited among one another. And these brushes are placed in such a way that there is an always angle alpha over here. So the rotor field and the stator field always makes an angle alpha over here. So there will always be a resultant. So if there is a resultant, then there will be a rotating magnetic field, and thereby the starting torque will be developed. Okay. This type of motors are generally used. Connections are made as a type of starting motor, means series motors only. How DC series motor is done, the connection, internal connections are made in such a way only, such that it behaves as a DC series motor. Okay, so this processes a very high starting torque. So if you see the starting torque drawn over here is around 5 per unit. Previously it was around 3 per unit or 2 per unit. So because it has a high starting torque and it behaves as a series motor, so its starting torque is very high over here. And rest things you go through it. Okay, this is not much. This is little bit more important than the repulsion motor, reluctance motor. Why we are using reluctance motor? Now what we are doing over here is that again we are using the same principle of your shaded pole motor. What we are doing in the same motor only, we are creating two types of fluxes, and that resultant of the two flux was producing my rotating magnetic field. So over here also we are producing two different fluxes from the same pole itself. How you can produce it? By changing the reluctance. So if you change the reluctance, MMF will change. So if your MMF change, your field is changing. So you are getting two different fields. Okay, resultant of the two fields or resultant of the two fluxes will produce a rotating magnetic field. So that's why what we are doing is creating separate reluctance over here. How will you create different reluctance? You change the length of the air gap. You know how the reluctance is dependent upon length of the air gap. So over here it is more. Over here it is less. So if you change your air gap length, okay, if you change your air gap length, so reluctance changes, MMF changes, field changes. So two different fields or MMF produced over here. Interactions of two different MMF will produce a resultant MMF which will be rotating in nature. Instead of using a complete pole over here, we are cutting this pole over here so that reluctance changes. So how we are creating this? That's my first point over here. Non-uniformity in air gap is used to produce the rotating magnetic field in a similar manner to shaded pole motor. So what we are using over here is non-uniformity in air gap to produce the rotating magnetic field. Okay. And rest points are discussed over here. This is a common point, means this is a you can go through it. If you are using a air core coil and you are using a AC current, okay, the flux comes in phase with the exciting current in that case. Okay, and if you are using an iron core coil and then you are giving a AC supply to it, the current lags behind you with time. Okay, your flux and current is in same phase if it is a air core coil. If it is a iron core coil, your current lags behind with time. Okay, you can go through your magnetism chapters in first year and go revise all these things. Okay. Even if it is smaller air gap or larger air gap, it doesn't depend, because smaller air gap or larger air gap changes your reluctance. It doesn't change your lagging or leading part. So even if it is a wider or narrower air gap, it doesn't change anything. Only lagging or leading is dependent upon which type of core coil you are using, whether you are a air core coil or iron core coil. So that's why your flux over here. So here over here there is more of here. Over here there is more of the iron. So here flux phi1 will be in phase with your current I1, and your flux phi2 will be lagging your current by an angle beta. So if this phi2 lags by an angle beta, there will be a resultant between these two. So if the resultant is there, so obviously there will be a rotating magnetic field, because you need to create two fluxes which should be at an angle 90 or less, means it should be at an angle 90 to get the maximum value. Even if it is not equal to 90 degree, which we are seeing, we will not get maximum starting torque, but we will get a resultant which will be in rotating in nature. So that is the function which we are using over here to get your angle beta, and rotating magnetic field is getting produced. So now you see that this phi1 reaches maximum, means comes in phase with V1 earlier, and after this phi2 reaches your maximum value or comes in phase with V1. So you can say your rotation. So you can say your rotation is from phi1 to phi2. That means from a larger air gap to smaller air gap. Your rotation of the rotor. So that is rotation over here. From a wider air gap to narrower air gap will be your motor rotation. And you can go through this point. Only one point I want to tell to you over here is that you may later see that there are some special machines variable reluctance motor. Over there is other principle used. Don't confuse with that variable reluctance motor over here. This is a reluctance motor. This is a reluctance motor, and this reluctance motor principle is used to start the motor. Okay, and rest the principle of induction motor is only continuous. The energy is received from the stator, but energy received from the rotor from the stator is through induction only. Okay, in variable reluctance motor, the energy is received by different means. So don't confuse with that over here. This variable reluctance over here is used during starting only. Rest all operation is like induction motor. Okay, so similar characteristics as your shaded pole motor, and types of motor where starting torque requirements are low. Here starting torque requirements are low compared to your previous motor, that is your repulsion motor. So we have discussed all the starting methods of your induction motor. All the split phase motor startings are very important. Shaded pole motor is very important, and this reluctance motor is very important. And this repulsion motor you can go through.